Right back here in the historic Carbon Square, Boston. Black News, 351 cities and towns throughout the Commonwealth, and we had representatives that are running, candidates that are running for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We had in our earlier broadcast Danielle Allen, Dr. Danielle Allen from Harvard University, who's running for governor. She is a sister who's running for governor as well. We had Christopher Dempsey, who's running for state auditor, and I just learned more about an auditor. And here at Boston Black News, we want to make sure we give you the education so that you can get access to equity. Voting rights and access to equity. That's our theme this year for Dunk the Vote 365. We're not playing around. It is important that we go out and vote on the eve of Dr. Martin Luther King, civil rights giant, civil rights leader. On the eve, we want to make sure that we continue to push and be intentional about getting people out to vote. Happy New Year. We are back in the studio with my sister, Zakiya Alake. Welcome back. It's so good to see you. It's been 14 days. I haven't seen you since the New Year.
I haven't seen you since, we were together with Dawn and Corey Thompson
we did
the week before Christmas.
Right.
And we haven't seen each other all year.
Isn't that something? I miss you.
Fact, my birthday was Sunday, brother.
Happy birthday. We have a lot of birthdays in January. Then your birthday was when? January what?
9th.
Mine is January 21st.
That's right.
And Wali Bell out of Columbus, Ohio, my cousin, his is January what? Wally?
22nd.
January 22nd.
All right.
You sound like you eating breakfast. You celebrating already?
Really?
Yeah. Well, it's good to laugh in these perilous times, in this moment, in this pandemic. We have to laugh, get our endorphins going so that we can deal with life. Because now we have to make sure we continue wear our masks, stay 6 feet apart, get vaccinated. And now, as of wait a second, as of tomorrow, I believe you have to show your vaccine card. Yeah, as of the 15th. When you go into public
restroom, do what?
Yeah. So me too. I took a picture of mine and kept it on my phone. And I went to a Celtics game 2 weeks ago, and they really didn't. They said, "Show me your vaccine." I'm like this, and they were like, "Go ahead." It's gonna be. I know. It's like, okay, is that you?
Yeah.
My mask on. No, that is me. Do you have an idea? So it's. I guess we have to live with these times. But let's talk about voting rights. I know that Wally Bell and I and Pastor Dan Walker, if you're listening, tune back in. We started to talk about what's going on in D.C. throughout the country in reference to voting rights, and I know you want to add something. So, Wally, why don't you just start us up with this conversation? We want to open up the lines. We're going to have a good old chit-chat. Talk in the year 2022. This is 2022, right? Okay, yeah. It went by so fast. Wait a second. Is this 2022?
With the mask on.
Is this just me? I'm not keeping up with days.
No,
Pastor Wall. I mean, like, yo, Pastor Wall, Pastor Alake. You look at it.
Yeah.
Pastor Wall, it's moving. This is this is 2022. So, okay, we're in the first month. Okay.
Halfway through.
Anyway.
And you got multiple deadlines.
A whole bunch of them.
I only know about 4 or 5 of them.
Don't make my head get.
All right.
I got something in my neck. So Wally, why don't you start us out? Let's talk about what's going on to continue our discussion from this morning in reference to how the voting rights have been attacked, and I don't know what to say.
And I want to start out also by saying to the caller from earlier, William Clay had said this a while ago, that black folks, when it comes to us, we don't have permanent friends, we don't have permanent enemies, we only have permanent interests.
Interesting.
So we will do whatever we need to do with whoever we need to do it with in order to get our freedom, to ensure our freedom, to ensure our right to vote, and all the other rights and equalities that we deserve as black folks in this country. And you know, as Malcolm X has said, by any means necessary.
Well, you know, interestingly, when I heard him, I didn't want to jump in and take sides because, you know, I don't want to say, and you just look it out for your cousin. But when he said we want to go back to liberty and justice for all, go back.
We haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, we never have.
Go back to liberty and justice.
Yeah, and I was, you know, we could hit each and every point. A lot of times when folks attack, they will they'll splatter a bunch of things all at the same time. 10, 15 items at the same time, which if you took each of those items and examined those items, you could defend it very easily. And he kind of did that, and I wanted to, you know, not go through all of them, but, you know, there's other sides to that.
Well, we have him. He can defend himself. He's on the line now. He is Pastor Dan Walker, but I want to hear from Zakiya first, and then we're going to let the rebuttal happen with Dan.
Well, this morning, good morning, Wally, out there in Ohio, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to start with talking about voting rights. Joe Madison has been on a hunger strike for 68 days today, striking until voting rights is passed. Joe Madison is 72 years old, family.
Wow.
If he can do that, can we go knock on doors and talk to the people?
We can do that.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Pastor Dan.
And even more, I got to say, even more important than knocking on doors, making phone calls, and also getting on social media. Because you can reach people through social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. One of my friends, he lives on TikTok. We actually have nicknamed him TikTok. And he's not a teenager. He's a grown man with with a real position, real stature in life, but he's on TikTok so much, we call him TikTok now.
Well, I actually have a meeting with grad students of Northeastern today at 1:30 to get, what do you call them in grad student? They're not classes, are they? Are they? Internships. They're going to help us do social media for our Roxbury Neighborhood Council, Dunk the Vote, and others, and make sure that we have a solid.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
That's really, we definitely need that. Pastor Hobbs and I were just talking about that, about the different, how the different media platforms, and I said, you notice when I share it on Facebook and on social media while we're live, I get more views. And then he reminded me, people want to see stuff in real time. Because sometimes I look at my view, I'm like, wait a second, what happened? Yeah. You know what I mean? Pastor Dan, I hear you breathing over there. I can't wait to say something.
No, I'm good. And let me say about voter rights, just so that we're completely clear, I am 100% in favor of any law or any action that allows more people to vote. The only caveat I say is that you must be able to, you have to be required to show proper ID. Whatever you're going to do with your voter route, proper ID has to be shown if you're going to register. I don't care how you're registering, as long as proper ID is in the mix.
But by you saying that, you're going against many people within your own Republican Party. Because they're
excuse me.
Party who don't believe what you just said.
Excuse me. Let's be clear about something. Let's be clear about something. I'm not a Republican.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We know you're a pastor, but what are you?
I am a registered independent and have been ever since I realized the fact that the Democratic Party has done absolutely nothing for, quote unquote, my people, except every election time come out and say that the Republicans are bad for you.
Vote blue, no matter who.
Yeah, pretty much. So ever since I realized that, nope, they're not doing anything for me. And let's face it, can anybody here tell me anything that former President Barack Obama did that directly affected your life in a positive way?
Well, you can say that just about with any president.
But I said it about him. I said it about him because he was. Yeah, he is the first.
You can say that with any president.
No. This is very no. No, you can't do that. No.
To assist me, and there was absolutely nothing. I can, that's any president on any side. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's not true. That's absolutely not true. And I'll tell you why it's not true. Because presidents have affected individual groups of people from time in. The Japanese were interned under a Democratic president. Let's face it. Woodrow Wilson resegregated the military. So when it comes to presidents having direct effect on our lives, yes, they most certainly do.
What about Bush? What about Bush?
I don't know. What about Bush? Our current president has directly affected my life in that it now costs me between $75 and $100 to fill my gas tank.
The interest rate and the inflation rate is a product of a lot of things going back well before Biden got into office. It can even be argued successfully that a lot of this inflation actually started with Trump when he did the incredible amount of tax cuts.
Well, if you're going to argue that, then why don't we start with my basic argument, which is and Trump.
Dan, you're going in and out. Dan.
Dependent. We did not have to ask any other country for anything. We were actually exporting oil during Orange Man. So, and as soon as Biden guy came into office,
Trump.
Excuse me?
Happened before Trump too.
So you're saying that the current president is doing worse than the former president?
Absolutely.
In what way?
Absolutely. In what way?
Yes.
Hello, where have you been? Gas is, my gas to fill my truck right now is between $75 and $100.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is a lot, and and Brother Ron knows exactly how much I drive. So
yes, I do.
Okay, all right.
Okay. So this is a direct result of Joe Biden being in office, because when he came into office, the first thing he did was shut down the Alaskan pipeline, put 50,000 people out of work, and turned our country from a fuel independent company to back to going. Excuse me?
I said that's not entirely true. But go ahead.
Excuse me. What is not true about the fact that my gas is now double the cost of what it was? What is not true?
The inflation rate for gasoline has been going up long before Biden. Biden's only been in office less than a year, and it was going up when Trump was in office.
Excuse me, once again, during the fact that Trump was in office, we were a economically fuel-independent country. We were exporting oil because of the Alaskan pipeline. And now under Biden, President Joe Biden, we have gone into our Federal Reserve. We have gone hat in hand to OPEC and asked them to produce more oil, none of which we had to do under Trump. Why are you arguing with me about this? This is what happened.
Because what you're saying is not entirely true. There's a lot of other factors that are involved with why gas.
In terms of a lot of other factors, okay, again, see, this is the issue. I am pointing out something that is tangible to the average, everyday person who doesn't give a kitty about other factors. All he knows is that now his gas is $4 where it used to be $2.50. That's all he knows.
Okay.
No,
now that we've gotten that out. Now that we've gotten that out, what are we going to do to deal with this as individuals, as a community, as relates to voting rights, as relates to the economy, as relates to any and everything? I mean, we can sit here and talk about presidents, past, present, future, what have you. But what are we going to do as individuals?
Well, I think what we need to do is go back to conservative value. I think we need to go back to a time where men were the men in their houses, where people had jobs that they could go to that paid them a quote-unquote living wage based on their ability to earn. I think we need to go back to a time where if you don't like me, you can stand up and say that you don't like me, and to block your opinion because they don't like your opinion. We need to go back to pure conservative values. In pure conservative values, there is no giving people that don't deserve anything. There is everybody doing, each man working, earning what he needs to earn based on his ability to earn.
Right.
I think that's what we need to do, if you ask my opinion.
Okay. Zakiya, I see you.
I like to throw a rebuttal to his opinion because the fantasy of his conservative values were quite twisted, because the conservative values that he speaks of are the values where African Americans are not allowed to have meaningful jobs that make any difference, that they're discriminated on housing and job opportunities and financial opportunities and the legal system and police reform and I could go through the whole 9 yards. That's the conservative values that we don't plan on going back to that. May I rebut? Nobody in their right mind that says that we want to go back to that.
May I rebut? At what point in time did you hear me say that we need to go back to Jim Crow, which was a Democratic concoction? At what point in time?
It was a conservative concoction. You're trying to, we all know when the parties or when the participants, the extremists switched parties. We all know about that.
The KKK was the terroristic arm of the Democratic Party in power at the time.
At that time, because
I said at the time,
and the conservatives were Democrat, and then as we all know, everybody knows that there was, the Dixiecrats and all that, and everybody switched parties. So, going
where we are right now,
is not going to work either.
Can I just say one? I just want to, because I'm listening to you both going back and forth, right? And I can't help but to mention what happened on January 6th, because that seemed like that just disappeared. What is going on with that?
It didn't disappear.
Okay.
You have basically the Republican Party and major members, including the minority leader, McCarthy, basically playing an obstructionist role, and you have this committee that is moving forward at believe it or not, very fast speed, considering that is finding more and more out every day, including at this point, we have major members of Congress who actually may be directly involved in not only what happened that day, but the pre-planning of it. We also have the Department of Justice, which has now found at least 2 outside organizations that may not only be part of the insurrection, but they actually are being charged with what they call sedition, which is actual planning to go against the government of the United States and the U.S. Constitution. And here's the scary part about that. You have members of Congress which may be connected to some of those organizations.
Rebuttal?
Oh, okay. That's easy. So far to date, there's been between 500 and 750 people who have been arrested for the incident so far, that have been arrested for the incident that happened on January 6th. How many of them have been charged with treason, insurrection, or sedition?
Right now, you have 10 plus with sedition, but as you well know, with any independent investigation, you start at the very bottom with the lowest amounts of offenses, and you begin to move up. And that's any, if you ask any prosecuting attorney, that's what you do.
So the answer is none.
Right now, they are moving up, and they're gathering evidence to do more prosecutions as time goes on.
So the answer is none.
No, that's not true. You just had 10 plus people get charged with sedition just yesterday.
Okay,
that's
so we have 10 people have been charged with sedition. How many have been charged with insurrection?
None with insurrection so
None.
far. But sedition is
so far.
In part of that. And you're acting like this is all said and done. Remember, you have an entire party, the Republican Party, who's throwing complete walls up against any type of investigation. If you were serious about America and
watch yourself,
red, white,
watch yourself,
and
watch yourself,
freedom,
watch yourself.
If you were serious about that, you would want to be able to say to yourself, I want to get to the bottom of this. And if anyone's going against the Constitution, I would be against that.
Okay, so let's be clear about something. Let's be clear about something.
Our way of government, I would be against that.
Let's be clear about something. I am not going to challenge at any way, shape, or form your morality, your spirituality, or your nationalism, or your patriotism. I expect the same from you. So make your argument.
I'm not challenging you personally. I'm just saying from a logical standpoint.
Excuse me. What you said was, if you are serious about your patriotism, now how can anybody take that other than you challenging me about my patriotism? All I'm saying is, make your argument. That's why I said watch yourself. Make your argument and let your argument stand. But do not come after my patriotism, my belief structure, and I won't go after yours.
617-282-0685. We are here at Boston Black News, and we are having an interesting conversation with Wali Bellata, Columbus, Ohio, Zakiya Alake in the studio. Pastor Hobbs is sitting over there like, I don't know what's going on over there. He's like, and I'm just baffled by this conversation. But in any event, it's a good one. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. These are not opinions of Boston Black News. As a disclaimer, I just want to put that out there on the broadcast of Dunk the Vote, Boston Black News. We just want to put that out there. These opinions, we're open to our own opinions. But I'm just thinking about on the eve of Dr. King, and then we're having all this resistance to voting rights, and and I hear you, Pastor Dan, in reference to going back to liberty and justice for all, but I'm just wondering, was it liberty and justice for all during slavery? Was it liberty and justice for all for black people in this city? I mean, in this country? I mean, explain that. When you said that, I was like, whoa, okay, go back.
So let me answer this, because I've had to explain this on several occasions.
Okay.
When the Constitution was created, we as black people, not only did we not have quote-unquote representation, we didn't even have personhood.
Right.
However, when you put into a document that when you start your document off saying we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created by their Creator and endowed with certain inalienable rights, among those life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, when you put that in writing and you say that all men are created, God says, okay, you said it, now you're going to have to live with it.
Okay.
So because they created this standard, which they could not live with or couldn't even have, if you studied history as I know you have, you know that the country wouldn't even have become a country if certain concessions had to be made. Because the southern states, two to be exact, I think it was Virginia and one other, might have been Rhode Island, that said we will not vote for any type of state countryhood if these statutes are in the law. So in order to create the state, compromises had to be made. But God said, okay, you said it, now you're going to live to it. So ever since that point in time, what's made America great is no matter how prejudiced, no matter how much things have been done to the indigenous people first, because you don't discover a country where people are living and without taking it over, and they did. See, America is a great experiment. It was founded on a great idea done the absolute wrong way. So how do I defend it?
How?
Well, they did to the Indians what they did to everybody, and it's what mankind does. So I don't have to defend sin because there's no defense for it. But we have a standard that we live by, and that's all men are created equal. And we said it, now we have to live by it, and there are people out there that will never be able to live by it because of all the poison that was poured into them. You know, if you ever watch kids play on a playground, they don't care what color their playmate is. They never have. Prejudice is learned, it's taught, it's instilled. But when kids are pure, they're pure. We all know this. So I don't have to defend those type of things. Come on. That's sin, and you can't defend sin.
Okay, well, Wally, let's talk about how there were tests that people had to pass to be able to vote. My daddy from Sterling Junction, Massachusetts, actually did his basic training, I guess it was called, for World War II in Florida. And he came back home. I was not born yet or anything, but he told me this story when I was a kid, that, you know, there were these voting tests, and you had to be able to spell the words. So they had a colored line, and they had a white line.
Right.
And so the guys in the white line were asked to spell the names of flowers. So the first white man, the word was tulip, and the next one was pansy. And then it was time for the colored man to prove he was literate and he could vote. They said, Negro, spell chrysanthemum.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And again, I am not going to defend ignorance. I'm not going to.
Can you spell that, Pastor?
Can I spell chrysanthemum? Absolutely not. I can barely spell pastor. What are you talking about? I can't do that.
The devil is in the details. It's in the people. So we have to have laws that protect us.
Yeah.
And it is also in the details as well. You laid out the story of the founding fathers and how they built this country. And as you well know, history is hidden a lot of times, real history. And as you well know, it's just been discovered that more than one of the founding fathers were completely against slavery from the very beginning and wanted to codify it within the Constitution.
Yes.
And it wasn't just getting the states involved. The founding fathers didn't even want it. And there were more than one founding father that, in fact, there was one, I can't remember his name right now, he released and freed his slaves, and actually, the way he did it, he actually created a blueprint that actually could have been, and parts of it was used during the Emancipation Proclamation.
And again, when it comes to America, we should not have to. We should not be arguing. Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. Go ahead.
So when you, I want to summarize. I don't want to take up as much time, but to summarize, there was a lot more involvement than what you just laid out. A few platitudes moving back and forth. There's been a lot of struggle, a lot of strife, and a lot of lives lost in order to get where we are right now. And black people have fought for that. I just read something the other day, the hundreds of thousands of black men that fought in the Civil War.
That's right.
And fought against the South. There's this perception that black folks just sat on the plantations waiting to be freed by the Union Army. There were hundreds of thousands of slaves that fought on the plantations for freedom. That were killed on the plantations for freedom. That joined the armies as they came through. So
we know this. Those of us who have studied history, we also know that there were black people who fought on the side of the Confederacy.
Yeah, that were forced. They were forced to do so. That's a narrative that's already been disproven. There were some, that were forced to fight.
They were forced to do it. I know that, and you know that. All I'm trying to tell you is that I'm not against voter rights. Hello, I said I think it's the right of every person to vote. I haven't missed an election since I registered. I voted in every election, and all I'm saying is that if you're going to have a registration, prove that you are a United States citizen. That's all. That's the only caveat that I have.
Because they've already done, every state, including Ohio here, Texas, I can go on and on, Massachusetts, every state has done an exhaustive test to see who is properly voting and or not. And in every state, it is less than 1% in terms of any type of voter fraud or anything like that. Nationally, it's less than 1 to 2%. It is inconsequential. It is inconsequential.
Can either one of you talk about
the narrative that the Republican Party uses?
Can either one of you talk about what's the guts of the voting rights bill that Joe Madison thinks is so important? He's on day 68 of a hunger strike. What is in this voting rights bill that Biden is staking his reputation on right now, and the Democratic Party? What's in the bill?
Does anybody know?
I don't know off the top of my head, and I'm sorry.
Well, the answer to the question is I do not know what is in this voter rights bill that is causing so much trouble. So if somebody knows, please tell me.
Exactly. I will say this. It is, again, and as I said from the very beginning at 9:30, it is an obstructionist move by the Republican Party. The voter rights bill will do several things. It turns Election Day into a national holiday.
All right.
So people who have to work and that sort of thing, they actually have the day off so they can actually go vote. The second thing is it gives other equitable assurances. I'll give you an example. Here in Ohio, we're in the next round of gerrymandering battle. The Republican-led Supreme Court of Ohio here just 2 days ago said, Republicans, your map that you put together was so bad, we're telling you to go back to the drawing board. You have less than 10 days to come up with a better map. And what that bill does is it gives a lot more when it comes to redistricting to make it more favorable across the board for Republicans as well as Democrats, for everyone. It does give assurances to make sure that when people are voting that they have to provide identification. And that's actually in the bill as well. Okay. So there's a lot of different things that are in the bill. So the big question is, why are all of the Republicans against it?
Well, the answer to the question is, A, I can't speak for all Republicans, but I haven't heard anything that you've said that I am coming against, that I would go against, as long as it allows. I've always said that the voting should be over a weekend, let alone not one day. I think it should start Friday and go all the way to Monday, so that people have a chance to vote. But that's just something that's not a
Excuse me to interrupt you. One of the other things that it does too, it actually makes it illegal to block folks who are providing aid to voters. Say, for example, in several states right now, it's actually against the law to even provide water to people who are standing in line to vote.
Well, again, these type of common sense things have to be worked out. The problem is that, as unfortunately, human nature being what it is, as soon as there's a law, there's also someone that figures out how to break that law. Or as soon as there's an intent, there's always someone that figures out how to co-opt that intent. Now, anything in terms of helping people get to the polls, as providing water and sustenance for people in line, nobody in their right mind is going to come against that. However, what they are concerned about is something called voter harvesting, where a person gets a ballot, is given some money, takes the blind ballot, and the person fills it out for him and turns it in. They are concerned about that, and whether you, I don't know if you want to be, if you want to say that never happens or whatever, okay, fine, but I think you know that it does. So I think those type of incidences have to be spelled out, because there are people out there who are trying to subjugate common sense law. And the other part of this, and this is something that you probably didn't know, you're from Columbus, Ohio?
Mm-hmm.
I'm from Cleveland.
Okay.
I grew up in Cleveland. And when it comes...
And you probably know that the whole Cleveland area is one of the most hotly contested areas right now as part of this gerrymandering battle that's going on here in Ohio. It's one of the main reasons why the Republican Party won't relinquish control, because of the amount of gerrymandering that they've done in not only the Cleveland area and all along the lake, but also down in the Hamilton County, Cincinnati area.
Okay, so
they basically lost the battle in Columbus because Columbus is too diversified, but they have not lost the battle yet.
I grew up in the Collinwood area. I spent 7 years, from age 7 to age 14, in the Collinwood area. When I first arrived in the Collinwood area, I'm not letting people know how old I am, so when I first arrived in the Collinwood area, it was 10% black and 90% everything else, including hardcore hillbilly. So I grew up with hillbillies, so I get to say that I know what a hillbilly is. I grew up with them. Because we all know that Cleveland, Ohio, is the capital of West Virginia. Some people get that, some people don't.
I've visited Ohio a lot when I was younger. Yeah.
All right, so you do get. So I can say that categorically. Also, my first name is William, which is the proper verb of Willie. My father, who was born in Kentucky, no doubt in a farmhouse, and registered at the county seat, which was in Louisville, they would not allow him to have a white man's name. Mm-hmm. So he was supposed to be named William, but they would not allow that on the records because he was a black baby. So he became Willie. So I'm actually named William after my father, who was not allowed to be named William. Mm-hmm. So all I'm trying to point out is that we all have stories in our life of individual and heartfelt prejudice of who we are and what we do. But I will say that we have to be very mindful that, because the biggest prejudices that I have felt in my life have all been from people who look like me. One of the worst battles I ever had, one of absolutely someone's going to die battle I ever had in my life, was when 6 black people decided that this skinny little kid with big glasses and a bunch of money in his pocket didn't have a right to go into a store on Washington Street, right underneath the L, right across from what became the house. Oh my goodness! But anyway, there was a store there, and the battle was so bad that they tore the door off of my truck trying to get to me, ripping the wires out and everything, just because I had money and they didn't. Well, the fact of the matter is they didn't get a dime, and I'm still here. And this was black on black. There was no white person yelling anything. This was all black on black, some of the worst. And we have to be mindful that we allow black people to have a diversity of opinion when it comes to the fact that we're black, because we're not all carbon copy, cooker-cutty people. You know, my conservative... Pardon?
I said, no, we're not. No, we're not.
So, this is why I say I am where I am now because I have studied and read stuff I wasn't supposed to read. I know who George Washington was. I know what he did. Yes, he's the first president, but he was a scoundrel. If you study his history, you'll discover that they started paying him because he was billing them for everything he did. And his bills were way more extravagant than that's where the first salary came from. They said, no, stop sending us bills. We're going to pay you a salary. So these type of things, America has been fraught with scoundrels in office. It has always been and always will. And prejudice has always reigned. And why has prejudice reigned? Because we have not allowed God in our homes, in our lives. And when Jesus the Christ, who is my personal Lord and Savior, comes into the mix, I have to love you. I can't have prejudice. We took God, quote unquote, onto schools, and what was the end result of that? We had to put metal detectors in. We took basic community support away from the local church community and turned it into a public welfare system. And what was the end result of that? Husbands and black men walked out of the house because the government said, you don't need a man around, here's money. So,
well, I
don't have time to go
again,
unpack all that.
Particularly agree with everything you're saying because you're oversimplifying a lot of things. And you're throwing a lot of different issues up, but there's a lot more involved in each of those issues. It wasn't just black men walking out from houses en masse.
The law was that white women could get welfare. White families were getting welfare, and black families couldn't. And they would come and search black families for a man in the house.
As I grew up in a very poor neighborhood, every black man that I knew worked. And every black man that I knew came home to their wives, came home to their girlfriends.
All right.
So that fallacy that or that narrative that you always hear that black men are running away from their women has always been wrong. It has always been wrong.
Once again, these things that are not fallacies, because I grew up, obviously, what I grew up in was a white neighborhood, but by the time I left 7 years later, it was 50-50. So I understand the concept of white flight. I lived it. I understand individual prejudice. I lived it. And also, I also know, and yes, every black man that I knew, except the ones that were on the corner, and they had a hustle or had a job, except my uncle, which had both. He had all kind of hustles, all kind of jobs, and all kind of girlfriends that he visited the first of the month because they had the money. So I'm just saying, we have to, when I say some of these things, they may sound general, but they are things that happened. And within the black community, yes, we've always had to fight. I've had to always be better than my counterparts. If anybody that knows me, anything about me, who thinks I have some concept of what I'm doing, it's because I had to. I had to read more, study more, pay attention more, just to be considered quote unquote equal, let alone better than. And that has always been the case.
This is what you say to a point. You remind me of one of my friends. and we talk about what I describe as the two-world view. And what you talk about is black world, or what I call black world. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's pull yourself up by your bootstraps, educate yourself, work hard. We all know these things, okay? Everybody was raised that way. Most folks were raised that way that were in black families. But you cannot ignore the white systematic world that we have to also fight against on a daily basis. The systematic racism, the systematic discrimination based on race that affects everything from home mortgages to jobs, to employment, to education, to medical medicine and health care. And I can go on to even that they're finding now with IT and the whole internet and social world that we're in is even being affected by discrimination. So you have to look at both worlds. You just can't say pull yourself up by your bootstraps when the entire system is rigged against you.
Okay, the problem with what you say is what you've been accusing me of, which is oversimplifying. What I'm telling you is that in my life...
I'm saying it based on the amount of time we have left. That's the reason why I...
4 minutes, matter of fact.
4 minutes, okay. All right, so let me keep it simple. The issues that you have stated, yes, they all exist. But everybody, myself and you, we have situations where people who look like us have been the most detrimental in our lives, either
I don't agree with that completely.
Okay. Again, I wasn't finished. I have not finished my statement.
Okay, finish your statement.
Okay. The people who have looked like us have been the most detrimental in our lives in that we don't acknowledge the fact that we can be different. And we can have a different opinion about how stuff is supposed to be and still be considered black. This is something I've had to face all my life. So whether you agree with it or not agree with it, welcome to my world.
Yeah.
Can I just read a couple of quotes as we end this broadcast? Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. From the Most Durable Power Sermon, 1956, of Dr. King. Let no man pull you so low as to hate him. The Most Durable Power Sermon, 1956. So as we approach Dr. King's birthday, let's remember to go out and vote. Let's remember to love one another, support one another. Let's inspire each other. We're entitled to our own opinions, but let's continue to fight the good fight. As Dr. King said, that the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where they stand in times of challenge and controversy. So continue to take a stand. God bless you both. Thank you, Wali Bell out of Columbus, Ohio. Pastor Dan Walker, one of our broadcasters here. We love you. We love you, Zakiya, Alake, Pastor Hobbs, and Pastor Wall, Renee Wise. We're tuning out right now. I'll see you next Friday. And we're going to be celebrating because there's a birthday coming up of a young man by the age of 38 years old, turning 39 on the broadcast. Ron Bell, Boston Black News, signing off. God bless you.